Good evening. This is the Elliott Wave Daily Update for the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 for Monday, July 15th, 2024. While the markets did continue to really just put in some very strange patterns and strange moves, as the basis for these moves continues to also get very strange. We had some very bizarre, disturbing news come in over the weekend, and I'm not going to review that because I really don't want to mix politics with market, but it was very disturbing. And here we are. So there was partially, I've read some things in the news on why buyers are moving back in. And I found that to be a little bit disturbing because I don't think that should have any particular play on other than just some thought. But in any case, starting here with the S&P, I'm going to start in the hourly chart. And both the cash market and the futures market in the S&P moved to additional new highs today. And again, it kind of just takes what I was using as the preferred count and move it to the alternate view, and this alternate being bumped back over to preferred. And the reason is because of the new highs and because of the potential that we have a continued potentiality that we will continue to move higher and produce, again, new highs. So how would that fit in? So I've been going over the patterns themselves, and at best I can come and say this was 3 down, and I can put a 4 there. And then we do this nice rally and that downswing, and this was on Friday. We come in today, we rally back up, we make another new high at 57, almost 57.19. We drop back down, and then we start to pick up the rally again. So what could this be forming? Is it an ABC for, we're going to start to form a diagonal going up? Possible. Now I have to let it develop a little bit more, because then is this ABC and a 2? Or are we going to let this develop a little bit more? So overall, it's very, very difficult to begin to pinpoint to suggest this is what's happening right now. I can leave it in that we're likely moving up in a sub-minuet wave 5. And again, we popped above that initial 100% fib number, which was at 57.14, that high coming in at 57.18, I believe it was, 19. So, went above it by 5 points, no big deal. But the fact that it came back below. But here is the major thing. It's leaving 3 up. Now, what could be going on? Is this the A of 4, the B of 4? Are we going to get a C of 4? But then here we run that risk again, right? Let's just say, for example, that this was, well, I can tell you what, we can go down like this, and I can put in, the fibs, and we'll just take a peek. And then I come over here, and you say you're just going to put in, and we actually don't need any of those, because what we're looking at is to see, well, what was this? Does it fit anywhere in what we would be looking for in an irregular? No, it does not. But it went above that high by 10 points. So, but it doesn't really fit the irregular. So we can't really then go on the basis that the market, then we would be anticipating and expecting it to come back down to 1.618. But let's just say, for example, if it did. So what we're going to do again is we're going to just add the fibs for the travel back down, if it were to. 1.618 is 5578 or 5580. Can't. It overlaps wave one. So the 4 can't be forming some bizarre, irregular pattern. Now, it could, as long as it doesn't come down and overlap that high, which is 5595.75. If it did, then it overlaps and it's not the 4. So that's the dilemma that we're in, or the market is presenting to us as to, well, what could it be? So I'm going to leave it unlabeled. I'm going to leave that they did put in a new high again today, a new all-time high, and that's again the cash and the futures market. They did come working their way back down, and then they rallied hard again. Now, what's all behind it is a mixed bag. Primarily, we're seeing a lot of push in Apple. We're seeing a big push in Tesla. We're seeing a big push in some of the other stocks, but not as strong as, again, that we're seeing. We saw Goldman Sachs catch fire today. We saw JP Morgan catch fire today. The banks coming back into favor today. Against, well, they're not supposed to be reporting good earnings, and now it's just like, that's fine. We don't care because we know they're all going to make money anyway, I guess. So here we are. Again, with the political situation now picking up and adding their whatever to what the market is doing. So we got to leave this open for right now. So we continue to have, in fact, I'm going to leave this on because we did slip back below it. So it may present some resistance once again, but it's going to be 1425 up to 19, which is what the high was today. And then we continue to have on the minute degree, our next level is 57.59. On the minuet degree, our next level is 57.63. And on the sub level, the sub minuet level, we've already passed that. I'm going to leave it there just as a point where it may find resistance, but then we have stronger resistance at 57.72. And then we do have additional up here if they really start to break. Now, what am I going to start to look for? Well, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt that, this does kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, got a 5. So it could be the ugliest little 5 you've ever seen. But I don't think we didn't really break any rules. And maybe it is A, B, C, and it's wave 1, a sub wave 1 of the sub minuet wave 5. And this may be wave 2 because it does come down as 3. Maybe we'll get a little bit further. As long as it holds itself above there, then we could maybe put it in a wave 2 and then get a wave 3, a 4, and a 5. And it'll form that diagonal. That's yet to be determined. But I've been doing Elliott wave for a very long time. And I have run into some very difficult situations where it's like, boy, this count is not clear. But it's been a very long time since I've been able to actually sit and go, I'm not really sure what is forming here. So I have to let the market trade out before we really can determine. What I can leave it with is that the message that I'm receiving from the market as upside is still in play. We have not reached a high. We're not getting any news that suggests that we need to rip roar and tear this all down. Not when they're moving into Tesla, not when they're moving into Apple, not when they're continuing just to replay, not when we're seeing the mid caps continue to just get overtaken by buyers. Now, again, is it knee jerk? Is it just because that's what somebody said was supposed to happen? What the correlations may or may not be that are producing it, it's happening. The Russell 2000 saw another very strong day with the future up 43. IWM up strong, being up 4. We just got the RUT, which is just the Russell, also up strong. So again, we're seeing some, just some cross-market activity. But again, trying to put an Elliott on it, the best I can tell you right now is that it really does appear to me that we might be forming a diagonal, and it might be a little bit expanding if we can just kind of work this stuff out. And maybe we just finished wave 1 of 5. And then we got a wave 2 of 5, and then a wave 3 of 5, 4 of 5, 5 of 5. And we still end up here, or maybe even higher, before all is said and done. Now, one of the things that continues to roll is that, and I spoke about this over the weekend in the podcast, is that I cannot say that we're going to be all done with this in the month of August or even in the month of July, because of the way that the options flows, the cash flow, the money flow is coming in. And what we're seeing is a bigger push in call buying. Call buying, call buying, call buying, everything buying calls, selling puts, buying calls. So it's kind of leaving things in a very precarious position, because if anything comes in and they start to dump, it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be a disaster because there's no positions underneath to kind of even this thing out to give it some type of a floor. It's like they could just be slam and slam and slam. And so, again, not knowing, we could go either way. But as the setup is right now, these calls are being built up, more, week to week, that's for sure, but more on the monthlies. So this Friday is the July monthly. Then we have the August, but the September monthly is going to be much bigger. So not only do we have it building up on the monthlies, but it seems to be on the quarterly expiration cycle, which again, the last one was June, and that ended the second quarter. Now we have September will be ending the third quarter. And so again, does this roll right up into that point before we get a shot at really something changing? I don't know. I don't know. So again, best I can tell you right now is I'm thinking that they have the possibility, because we reached a new high today, is that it is going to be a diagonal. Moving averages truly unaffected here. This is the hourly chart. It's just kind of, let's look at it this way, bring it in. You can see the 50's flat, the 20's flat, the 200's flat, pretty flat. And that's with some solid upside moves and kind of coming down. It broke the 50, but it retook it and retook it very quickly, closed well above it. So everything remains the same in terms of what our moving averages are telling us. I take one last look. I'll take a look at that daily on this. And here we have kind of the same thing, right? Doesn't look bad on the daily. Kind of like, oh, one, maybe a 2, 1 of 5, 2 of 5. We're going to work through this and continue to poke up into new high territory. So the daily, you get along a little bit better. Maybe we got 1 and 2. Maybe we're working on 2, but still it looks a little bit cleaner than the hourly. The hourly is kind of still not very reasonable here, but we'll see. Over in the NASDAQ, boy, even a little bit messier, because it's just all in a lower level, but it's the exact same thing. You didn't even come close to getting up to the all-time high. Right now, we're just 20,983, 984. There. We got close. We got close to 20,800. Got to 20,797. So, but it's the same type of a deal. Now here, I've kind of put this up as if the whole thing, the whole minuet wave 5 is a diagonal. As I've discussed previously, this has always presented a real challenge to me on what it is. because I thought this definitely, I didn't see it as three waves, but it could be. It could be, and I still, it's a real squeeze to get it that way. But when I start to look at it, it's like, well, what the heck else could it be? If I'm really going to leave this as one, and this is two, and that's three, and that's four, and then it's not all done, then we're coming back up in three. And we went up, we came down. This was Friday. Came up, we zipped up, made that high, sold off again late in the day, made a new low over what we had done just prior, and then zipped all the way back up. So we were here at 20,506 and end at 20,625. It's just like, okay. So I'm not sure what that dump was, and I'm not sure what that big pounce was either. It's just kind of, you walk in, it's like, wow, okay, there you go. Now, same idea. Are we going to now do this diagonal 5? So inside of another diagonal? Or if this is not, is this just going to be the diagonal? Not as clean as you can think as the S&P, because as I said, we're pretty far away from new all-time highs here in the NASDAQ. I'm not pretty far, but far enough when you thought, okay, that was the challenge, that was the high. It's up by over 100. Could it do it? Of course it can. But you would think on a day like today that they probably would find a little bit more gusto. But even the buyers that were so strong in Apple this morning, that were so strong in Tesla this morning, they stayed and they remained and they continued to buy, but they didn't get that same push. In other words, it's like Apple didn't go back up $5 or $6. Tesla didn't go back up 12 to 13 to $15. So again, things kind of just continue to do what they need to do. But I'm going to leave it as this. I'm going to leave it. And here as well, I can't say that the preferred count is out here in the NASDAQ. That still could have completed the whole thing. And then this is somehow 1. And this is a 2. And we're going to come flying down. And if we do, and we start to break, you're going to know. So because, first of all, if it starts to break below 20,330, 20,400, then something's up. So, but right now, I would not necessarily look for that, because I get a 3 and then a down, and they start to buy it back. So is it forming a diagonal to come up? Yet to be determined, to be honest with you. But I continue to keep these resistance levels in mind. I continue to look at support having to come in at 20,400. And then a break there starts to drop it much quicker. But what I'm going to connect it to, I have to leave it to price right now. So then we have, a drop below 20,000. And again, if it's really going to give it all up, it's going to happen quick. So to see it come down from there down to 200 or 300 and get below there and then drop another 400, I don't think that's an impossibility. If they just, for whatever reason, decide they're giving up all of this upside, well, this type of action can take place. Right now, I'm not necessarily looking for it. But the moving averages, pretty much the same. Flat, flat, flat. And this is against a big rise, a big drop, and then coming up flat in between. So they're basically saying, here we go, sideways. And that's pretty much ultimately what the market did today. Moved sideways. Had some decent moves in between. Not always the easiest, but it did. What it all is going to end up being, I'm leaving that open. I'm going to continue to look for that we're in a 5th wave going up to finish the whole shebang. And if we break below 400, then I believe that the count was showing that this is the finishing point, remains in place. All right, that's it for today. You're gonna leave me a bunch of comments, I'm sure. But I'm always open to hear what I may not be seeing and others may be seeing. Now, tomorrow, Tuesday, July the 16th, we have US retail sales at 8:30 a.m. We have import prices at 8:30 a.m. And we have business inventories at 10 a.m. and home builders confidence at 10 a.m. and one Fed Gov speaking at 2:45 p.m. So that's it for tomorrow. And then outside of that, I wish everybody a pretty good trading day. And the next update will be on Tuesday, July the 16th.